All right, Ram, I'm ready when you are. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Bhajanaranjana Jasodanandana Bhajanaranjana Jamunti Ravanatari Jamunti Ravanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Bhajanaranjana Jamunati Ravanatari Jamunati Ravanatari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribhajacharya Siddhata Shisham Divine Grace Abhayachara Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Gaura Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Nam Chai Shahidas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Go Bhakta Vrinda Ki Say Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadi Dham Ki Jagannath Dham Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Bhakti Dev Ki Sambhira Bhakti Vinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Say Siddhara Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Svedamo Pagati Dhamiganadi Bisaha Kalana Sadasham Mesha Parano Konidodita Narana Namaskritchandanam Chaivam Narotama Devim Sadasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Bhagavatam is Vrinda's son. It is written just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respects to the personality of God in Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pare. I am on verse 42. What are we on? Well, that makes life interesting, doesn't it? Well, that changes the ball game. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Well, why won't you cooperate with me? Well, that's a surprise. Patim param dhamma jnanam vaidarbi maladvajam premna parya archarad dvitva bhogan sa pati devata patim parama dhamma. I'm trying to think right tune. Patim paramadharma gyan Vaidarbi maledvajayam Premna paryacharaditva Bhogan sapati devata Patim paramadharma gyam Vaidarbi malayadvajam Premna payacharaditva Bhogan sapati devata Patim param dharma Hare Krishna Patim paramadharmagyam Vaidarbi malayadvajayam Premna paryacharadvitva Bhogan sapati devata Patim dharma paramabhyam Dharani maladvajayam Premna redhiradvitva Bhogan sapati devata Patim paramadharmagyam Abhi maladvajayam Alrighty. Patim, her husband. Parama, supreme. Dharmagyam, knower of religious principles. Vaidarbhi, the daughter of Vidarbha. Malayadvajam, named Malayadvaj. Premna, with love and affection. Paryacharat, served in devotion. Hitva, giving up. Bhogan, sense enjoyment. Sa, she. Pati Devata, accepted her husband as the Supreme Lord. The daughter of King Vidarbha, accepted her husband, all in all, as the Supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principles of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus she remained engaged in his service. Also you say, the daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband all in all as the Supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principles of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus she remained engaged in his service. Purport. King Maladwaja is the spiritual master, and his wife, Vidarbhi, is the disciple. That's the analogy. Because remember, this is Narada Muni speaking to King Prachanibari, because he's too proud to hear directly, so he's coming in the back door. So remember that this is an analogy. The disciple accepts the spiritual master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in Guru Vashtaka, Sakshadaриtvena, one who directly accepts the Guru, the spiritual master, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should accept the spiritual master not in the sense that the Mayavadi philosophers do, but in the way recommended here. The Mayavadis, the spiritual master is a ladder, and you use a ladder to climb to a higher platform. And because you don't want to fall down, you don't want to go back, what do? They say in America, burning your bridges behind you, you kick away the ladder. So your spiritual master helps you obtain the Brahman, and once you obtain the Brahman, then there's no longer a need of spiritual master. There's one. And another way is that you realize that the spirit, it's all, the home and om, it's all one. So many ways of going, but in our tradition, the spiritual master is there in the spiritual world, and we are in his camp. And he engages us, just like there's so many different people think, a hierarchy, an organization, can't we just be spontaneous? Although it's completely spontaneous in the spiritual world, it's highly organized. There's all different camps and sections, just like the cows, there's all different, everything's very expertly organized, of course. And our spiritual master will be there, and will actually be in his camp, in his group of whatever that is, serving Krishna. So it's an eternal relationship. It's not there it is. I was saying one time that I was talking with Niranjana Swami, that because people think, you've got disciples, and it must be such a, like they see those pictures of Prabhupada. I met a man, he's always sitting on those big sofas. Prabhupada's sitting on the big chair, got disciples. And So I raised 2 children. It is not an easy task, raising children, especially when they're teenagers. But eventually you get them educated, you get them settled in an occupation, you get them married, and you're done. Kanyadan. You give away a daughter, a qualified daughter, to a qualified husband. You've done your duty. So, you can move on. I could take sannyas. Got them all out of the house, got them educated, got them situated. I'm a free man. But Niranjana Swami pointed out, I said, I was offering my respects to Niranjana Swami. I said, but you've got them for the whole, they never move out. You've got them for the rest of your, taking care of them the rest of your life. And you know what his response was? Oh no, life after life. So here it's being described that it's, well, I'll finish the purport. One should accept the spiritual master not in the sense that the Mayavadi philosophers do, but in the way recommended here. Since the spiritual master is the most confidential servant of the Lord, he should be treated exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master should never be neglected or disobeyed like an ordinary person. If a woman is fortunate enough to have a wife, to be the wife of a pure devotee, she can serve her husband without any desire for sense gratification. If she remains engaged in the service of her exalted husband, she will automatically obtain the spiritual perfection of her husband. This is the analogy. If a disciple gets a bona fide spiritual master simply by satisfying him, he can attain a similar opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ganata Mirandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Jakshush Unmilatan Gena Tazanishi Gurave Namaha. This is a lonely world, actually. And everyone, what is the nature of the jiva? The jiva is not, on one hand, we are like Krishna. But the difference is that we need, what'd you say? Support. Very good. We need shelter. We need support. So the living entity, the jiva, is always looking for what can I count on? What can I lean on? What will make me full and complete? They're thinking, well, maybe it's sex, or maybe it's profit, adoration, distinction. Maybe it's, whatever it is. My children, whatever. The living entity is always taking shelter. Let me take shelter of this sandwich, this donut. And I must admit, those Ekadasi donuts by Bhakti were pretty good. But you eat it, you digest it, it's gone. And how many donuts can you eat? So it's inherently, there's a saturation point. We have limits. So it's a tough spot. And the living entity is always looking for shelter. Where can I find shelter? What will make me complete? And here it's being described, just like I was listening to a tape last night. Of course, I was thinking about a different verse, but the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said, you think about it for a moment. Because Bhagavad Gita, although it's historical, Prabhupada says, I can take you by the nose to Kurukshetra, it's a fact. Places there, Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. You can trace the lineage. The whole thing is true. At the same time, it's also an analogy. And Arjuna, like the little jiva, was all alone, was overwhelmed. One of my favorite bumper stickers. If you're not paranoid, what's the other part? You're not paying attention. This is a rough, lonely world. Now you can push it off for a little while. You can turn the heater on, or you can get your wife, or you can get your house, and every now and then it's cruising okay for you. You can get a good run. But how it ends, like they say, I've seen this movie, I've read this book. How it ends is very clear. There you are, we all know. I'm not going to spend time on it. So the point is that our nature is to take shelter. We are looking for a friend, a real friend. And there's so many bad examples. I don't want to, and even sometimes you see these oldsters. Look who's talking. But sometimes you see these oldsters, and they're holding hands. They're like in their 70s and 80s. People think, oh, isn't that cute? They're still holding hands. They're in COVID, and they can't be. They're both in the old folks' home, but they wheel them so they can see each other through the glass, and which one will die first. And I mean, spare me. It's actually quite tragic, because it has to end. And the little jiva who's given all of his heart and all of his hopes snapped. It's tragic. It is the original, what to speak of Greek tragedy, it is the eternal tragedy. But here what is that relationship we're actually looking for? Krishna, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said the whole point of Bhagavad Gita was Arjuna's standing there. He's against the Kurus. He's against his Bhishma. How is this going to work out? It's like looking at the ocean, and you're a little tiny bird. What are you going to do, But simply by taking shelter of Krishna, with Krishna as his friend, he crossed over that ocean. So the point is that the friend we're looking for is Krishna. That's who we're actually looking for. That's the actual shelter. Now, people say, well, I don't see Krishna. Krishna's not talking to me. Of course, that day will come. Like Prabhupada says, Lord Brahma shaking hands. That day will come that you'll see him face to face. So how? Because the little jiva is looking for that relationship. We're looking for that friendship. We're looking for that reciprocation. My father, everybody does it, but my father was talking to himself one time. And I asked him, I said, who are you talking to? He said, myself. I said, why? He said, I'm the only one who understands me. And when we think about it, really, we're all looking, where is that love? You look at the literature, and the songs, it's always about where will be that person who unconditionally loves me, knows me and loves me, understands me, can finish my sentences. Where is that person? Where, And they're all looking for it. We're all looking for it. Where's that friend? Whatever the mood is, whether it's our mother or our father or our whatever it is, we're all looking for it. But Prabhupada says, so who is it? That person, when the spiritual master who engages us in Krishna's service, that's what we're actually looking for. That friendship. Krishna is real. I was on a morning walk with Prabhupada in Detroit, Belle Isle Park. Prabhupada's walking along. He was just chanting japa. He wasn't talking much. Sometimes Prabhupada would be just chanting. And the Radha Damodar party, so many devotees were there, probably about 25 devotees on the walk. And Prabhupada was out in front, of course. Prabhupada stopped, he turned to us, and he said, I know you're all atheists, but there really is Krishna. And just turned around and kept right on walking. It's a pretty far out moment, called out by our spiritual master. And I remember in Los Angeles, 1970, Prabhupada was doing the arti. He offering arti to, I forget the occasion, maybe it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day. But Prabhupada was offering the arti, the old LA temple, the Watsika, but where the temple room used to be, where the museum is. But the point is that I was back there helping Shalavati, the head pujari, and I watched Prabhupada go on the altar. And the way he'd offered the prasadam and then came out. And then when he went back on to offer the arti, the way Prabhupada opened the door he opened the door and he peeked in. Just like you would look, like if there was a very important person, you wouldn't just stumble into their room, if you were the butler. You'd make sure, as they finished their meal, what's going on here, And the way Prabhupada peeked in, and then he opened the door. Then he walked in, It was so sweet and intimate. So, Prabhupada said the whole point of Bhagavad Gita was to turn Arjuna from a no man to a yes man. Prabhupada, like Mukunda Maharaj tells the story about how when they called Prabhupada, the Christian lady was furious and trying to get a handle on Prabhupada, couldn't get a handle, and finally she said, Prabhupada had described how he'd come over. Anyway, she said, you're just a freeloader. Like in America, that's, you're John Wayne, everyone's self-made men. You call somebody a freeloader, it's like a big, you're just sponging off other people. So she called Prabhupada a freeloader. Mukunda Maharaj said, Prabhupada stopped from him and said, yes. He said, actually, I am a freeloader. Because Prabhupada was thinking he got free passage. Prabhupada took it in that context, or brainwashing to wash the brain. So yes man is not a very good, yes man means you have no backbone, you're just a shill for somebody else, you're just whatever. So Prabhupada says the whole point of Bhagavad Gita was to turn Arjuna from a no man to a yes man. But the point is that intimate friendship at every step. Prabhupada said, you think you're sitting on the floor, I'm sitting in the hand of Krishna. What was Prabhupada's name? A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Anyone know what the A.C. stands for? What does it stand for? Which means fearless at the lotus feet. Because fear, Prabhupada said of eating, we're going to talk about it tonight at the Sunday feast, but if eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, fearing is the biggest one. And rightly so. When is the wrecking ball going to come through the window? My brother, I don't think he's not listening, so we're safe. Maybe Neela's listening, but came home one day, working like a dog, built a house, bought the land, beautiful house for his beautiful wife, came home early one day, and she was fooling around with a gardener. I mean, I'm not picking on women. It happens to pious women. Find out that they're, get in the car and they find out there's some woman's earring in the back seat of the car. Well, where did that come from? What's that all about, My point is that it is a rough world, and even if you think about how fat, I am 68, yeah, and 1 year is 1/68th of my life. Now, if I was talking to my grandson, he's 10 years old, so 10 years, 1 year is 1/10th of his life, so a tenth is a big slice, right? If I give you a pie, it's a nice piece of cake, I give you a tenth of it, well, that's okay. If I say, okay, Alex, everybody else gets a nice slice, I'm giving you 1/68, thinking, well, what's up with this, So, the point I'm making is the older you get, the faster time goes. Because if 68, 1 year just flies by. It's just a 68th of your life. So the fact of the matter is, this life is over before we know it. It's just over. And we spend our whole time searching and getting broken relationships, and even if you're one of the rare few, and even then, we can't measure the miseries of the mind, but even you get the beautiful wife, even if you get the job, even if you graduated from Harvard with, even if it all lines up, like, in Las Vegas, ching ching, all the cherries line up and all the cash comes out, even if you win the lottery for this life, you got to wave goodbye. The whole thing's over. And off you go. We don't know where we're going. It's petrifying. Buy now, pay later. You got to pay for everything you did. So the point I'm trying to make is that friend that the jiva is looking for is Krishna. And it is realized by service to the spiritual master. That it's a testing ground. It's perfect. It's the perfect system. If I throw you into the,
You wonder another reason I didn't get much sleep last night. The guy below me, Grant, if you've ever met Grant, he's built like a bear. He's a big guy, 6'6", built like a bear. He's evidently practicing for something, I don't know what, but he's singing a Christmas carol. Oh, night divine, oh, and he sings in a falsetto. It's like he's got a soprano. All night long he's singing this thing. He needs a little more practice. I mean, he's got a long way to go. So the point, obviously, I don't know what in his church, I don't know what's going on. We've got to ask him. I don't know what's going on. But the point is that he's not just thrown in there. He's practicing. So this is our practice. How are we going to love Krishna? How are we going to realize, how are we going to give up our selfishness? If you think about it, it's very easy to understand I'm not this body. I mean, most people can, when they really think about it, I'm not this body. That's a machine. You can see it working. You can, and it's got levers and pulleys, and maybe we get smacked up enough. This tendon, that tendon, whoop, pop the cord. Whatever. It's okay. Most people, can understand that. Well, I'm not this body. But what do they think they are? They think they're the mind. And let me tell you something. The mind is what causes the pain. If we think about it, the monkey that we're carrying on our back is the mind. And what does Krishna say in Gita? I'm not making this up. What does he say about the mind? What does Arjuna say about the mind? It's more difficult to control than the wind. And Krishna just doubles down. Yes. So, and the mind is the greatest friend, and what also is it? It's the worst enemy. And you think about it. I mean, right now, if we took a quick inventory, well, I wish I had that, I'm feeling hungry, my mind is still left over, that didn't work out quite right, and what's going to happen in the future, and it's the mind that's all over the place. The body has about 5 notes. It's got pain, it's got pleasure, it's got about 5 notes. And they're not that sophisticated. It's like a little kid on a piano, those little kiddie pianos. Ding, ding, ding. The body doesn't have that much going on, really. But it's the mind. It's got a symphony. It's got every note, every nuance, every combination. Lust, greed, anger, envy. What is it? What have I forgotten? 6. Illusion, madness. I guess I get up to 6. So, what to do? Our problem is not our circumstances. It's the mind. So what does Krishna say? That's the issue. Oh, I can't get up this morning, getting out of bed, Really, the body's not in that bad shape. It's the mind. It's the mind that's got all the issues. Oh, I got to go out on Sanctum. But stop for a minute. Shh. Are you really going to be that uncomfortable? I mean, is somebody sticking with you with a knife? Is it, what's the issue? It's rain, you got an umbrella, you're cold, wear a sweater. What's the issue? I mean, proper diagnosis is the essence for curing a disease. What's the actual problem? The problem is the mind. I mean, talking to people, we talk to so many people. They say yes, they say no. Nobody's... I sound like such an old sir. When I was a kid, when I was a Sankirtan devotee, if you didn't collect $100, you couldn't get back in the van. Remember those days? You couldn't get back in the van. I had a Sankirtan leader, It would be 7 o'clock at night. I've been out there since 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. It was a rough day. You get your $100? No, I'll be back in an hour. Pick up the other devotees. I mean, but nobody's on your case. Nobody's on your, you just go out. And it's fun talking to people. You're always going to meet somebody nice, or you're going to get some, like Damodar Kumar, you're going to get some crazy guy screaming at you. You're going to get some weird philosophy. It's fun for the mind. You can think about, well, how am I going to deal with this guy, And every no is a step towards a yes. Fine. Was it Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that he was ready to sell all the marble in the buildings, all of the temples. He was ready to sell all the temples, and there were 64 plus, to get one thing other than Dravida and Vijay. What was it? He was willing to sell all the marble to get one thing. Other than Dravida. One pure devotee. If he could make one person Krishna conscious. So they're out there, the little jivas, they're all milling around out there. And this one's not ready, this one's in the mode of ignorance, and you got to sort through them all, and you're going to find that one jiva. And you may not even know that you found him. You may give his mother a book. Or you may give the kid the book who takes it home to the... You don't know what's going to happen. But you're going to meet far out people. So it's not a problem. It's fun talking to people. You're going to get a nice meal. You get to go home and take a nap, go to sleep. Nobody's going to whip you. No one's going to, what's the problem? The problem is the mind. That's it. So the point is that the mind is our problem, and how to solve the mind. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? How is it possible? Krishna says, practice and detachment. So the simple point is that devotees are described as introspective sages. If we can watch the mind, and I'm speaking to myself as well, if we can watch the mind working, wait a minute, like a fail-safe. Isn't it that they used to call a fail-safe? If Trump pushes the button, there's somebody out there in the silo in Omaha says, wait a minute, don't launch that missile. It's just Trump. Or, whatever it is, So the mind is always firing. And it's crazy. I mean, I've given the example, but I'll give it again. I had an associate, his brother was mad as a hatter. John Dewar was my friend, and I think his name was Chuck. But I don't know what happened to the kid, but he was nuts. I mean, I don't know what the politically correct, mentally, I don't know what. But we'd be driving along in the car. First time I met his brother, we're driving. Anyway, it's a long story. And we're driving on the freeway, Coast Highway. I'm in the passenger seat. My friend John isn't driving. I think we were going surfing. And the kid in the back, his brother, said, "Look out for the truck!" Whew! There was no truck. Nothing there. Slam on your brake, this, that. He was, and my friend had just learned to just tune him out. I was a nervous wreck by that. It was only a 20-minute drive. I was like, I got to get out of the car and lie down, But he just, and after a while, we would, because he was a nice guy. He would take his brother, whatever, So we would drive around. I just got used to it. And he was just, so the mind, if we can watch the mind, what's going on here? As I was saying the other day, nobody likes to be cheated. But we are put in our default mode. Here it's being described, peaceful. You read the 24 qualities of a devotee. Those are not an artificial imposition. That's who we are. I mean, I saw Prabhupada get so heavy with people, and people could take it. You know why they took it? They knew that Prabhupada actually cared about them. Hari Sari told me, he said to Prabhupada one time, I forget what it was, it was in the airport or something, and Prabhupada just had an exchange with just the stewardess or some ticket person, and the person really warmed up. I saw some people just get police officers, airport officials, whatever it was, parents, they just got warmed up by Prabhupada. And Hari Sari said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, everyone likes you. And Prabhupada said, because I like everyone. So imagine, we were describing, there's always going to be 3 levels of people. Bhakti Alex, what 3 levels will there always be in this world? Okay, good. That's a good guess. No, it's good. Goodness, passion, news. But as far as strata, let me say strata. There'll always be people who are more expert than us, higher than us. There'll always be people who are same, and what's left? Either more misfortunate or not as qualified, not as experienced, whatever. There's always going to be these three levels. Always. Now, how do the materialists relate to these three levels? What do they think of someone who's lesser than them? Take advantage of them. Laugh at them, drive by and splash mud on them in your car, exploit them, cheat them. The blind guy with selling pencils, steal his pencils. I mean, people are rough, So, okay. And how do you deal with someone who's on the same level as you? Envy, competition. How to knock them out of the way. How to step on their head. And what about someone who's better than you? Superior? Better position? Drag them down. Envious. Drag them down. Now, so what kind of world? And that's created by the mind. Now, the devotee, exact same circumstances. How does a devotee experience someone who's lesser than them? More misfortune? Compassion. Help them out. Be kind. There, but by the grace of God go I. Okay, what about someone who's equal? Friendship. And what about someone who's superior? Offer service, take instruction, get good advice, take shelter. Now, what's the difference? The physical phenomena is the same. What makes the difference? One lives in a hellish world, competing, envious, exploiting. It's no fun. Or being merciful, having friendship, having shelter, having affection, receiving kindness. Which world, and what makes the difference? The only thing that makes the difference is the mind. So, the point is that the kingdom of God is before us, as Jesus used to say. And Prabhupada used to say, you want to become Krishna conscious? How long does it take? Within a second. It depends on our consciousness. So, the point is, Krishna is real. The living entity is looking for shelter. Now, how do I develop conviction that the best shelter, the best friend is Krishna? How does that happen? How do you develop trust in someone? We were saying the other day. How do you develop friendship? How do you surrender your heart and have confidence? It takes time. You have to put yourself out on the limb. You have to learn. You have to put yourself in a situation where they reciprocate. I know that if I fell into Maya, more Maya than my default mode, I have devotees who would come and save me. I know they would come and save me if all of a sudden, I don't know what, I'm working at a 7-Eleven or something, living out in Hoboken, I don't know what, I have devotees who would come and say, well, what in the world are you doing? Would literally grab me and save me. And you think about Krishna. We've been hogs. We've been, I'll take my steak medium rare. What do they call it? Blood red? Blood rare. You order a steak, blood rare. Just imagine. And Krishna's in the heart, watches you carve up a cow. Jeez. But he's in your heart. He's always saying, hey, you really don't want to do that. Do you really want to do that? All right, here you get it. But, he's there, Suhridam, lifetime after lifetime. So my simple point is, when we go out on Sankirtan, yes, that's my point. It is all of a sudden snakes in a basket. Ram's from India, he may have experience. But if you put a bunch of cobras in a basket, would you play with a cobra? Here, tickle it under the chin. Feed it milk, Prabhupada says, All right, so these snakes are dangerous. They're hissing and, so many different things. Throw them all in a basket, put the lid on it. Okay. They quiet down. I think it's because of the dark or whatever. I don't know what it is. But they do quiet down. Kids don't try this at home, but they do quiet down. And what happened? Back to Alex. Open the lid, stick your head in, because the nuts are quiet. Does that work out well? Wham! So we don't realize how out of control the mind is until we try to regulate it. Regulation. We were just reading. We just said, by practice, coming to Mangalarti. Well, I don't want to get up. No, I'm going to do it. In a boxing ring. Do you know why the Israeli army is terrified? It's not terrified. Is terrifying. It's one of the most terrifying armies in the world. How did they possibly defeat? What is Jordan, Egypt? What is it? Syria? What have I forgotten? Iraq? All the Arab nations. Egypt, if I didn't say it, they're all surrounding. And if you look at Israel, it's very thin. You could drive across it. Now they got the West Bank, but still, you could drive across it in a couple hours, and it's completely outnumbered. You know how they beat the Arabs 7 times or whatever it is? Because the Israeli army does not retreat. They don't retreat. You have to kill them. You have to literally knock them down, or they're just going to keep coming, and it scares the bejesus out of people. In a boxing match, anyone who knows in sports, the guy who gets the first goal. Here we have, in the arena of life, we have the little jiva over here weighing in at 90 pounds. And over here we have weighing in at 250 pounds the bruiser, the mind. And when you wake up I heard Prabhupada say, I feel dead till I take my shower. I heard Prabhupada say it. And this was the standard I was trained. I get sick sometimes. All right, and the way I was trained, and I'm so great, I was trained by Keshava, who was a Hell's Angel. Yeah, he was literally a Hell's Angel, became a devotee. It's an amazing thing. He's my temple commander. You did not argue with Keshava. Trust me. And you got up. If you got up and fell over and threw up, well, then you're generally sick. But if you don't get up and you don't throw up, then take a shower. And he used to think, well, I'll just go to Mangalarti, then I'll take a nap afterwards. And once you're up and you dance and you see the beautiful deities and nice devotees, you think, well, I might as well chant a few rounds of japa before I go back to bed. And you get through japa and, well, I might as well go to Bhagavatam class. And, hey, I'm not going to go to sleep now. It's time for breakfast. And before you know it, if we're tired, fine, take a nap. I'm not arguing against that. But the point is that the mind, unless we've got to test it to see what's actually going on. If we don't put it in it, if we don't stress it, we don't even realize we're controlled by it. You follow what I'm saying? If we don't put it in a situation where the mind doesn't want to do it, it's amazing how strong the mind is. I was saying that the boxing, you got the little jiva, you got the 20-ton mind, and if that little jiva in the morning it comes out, and the first thing that happens, bam, it pops that 2-ton mind in the nose. Hey, wait a minute, I got to fight here, So we have to watch. We are being cheated, we're being exploited, and we're suffering. We are starving while surrounded by abundance. The ecstasy, Sat Chit Ananda, ever-increasing love, the loving embrace of our best friend. Dancing in the kingdom of God. Prabhupada told Bhavananda, I've given you the kingdom of God, now take it and enjoy. That's what we've got. Everything is meant to be used in Krishna's service. We've got the best of friends. It's exciting. Of course, Rabindra Sup said devotees don't get excited. Prabhupada told him, devotees don't get excited. Rabindra said, that's exciting, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, excited? Devotees don't get excited. Enlivened. So, Excited, I mean like passion, flash in the pan. The simple point I'm trying to make is that as it's describing here, and we'll end here, the spiritual master and the relationship of the wife and the husband and the wife having full satisfaction and shelter. When we take shelter of the order of the spiritual master, which is to spread the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, every town and village, there's those little markers. When you get on the freeway, check it out next time. You go down, what is it, Garnett? And then it turns into Grand or whatever it is. It becomes one. And just before you turn onto the, and then you go onto the, whatever it is, I forget the street, and then you go onto the freeway. There's a big tree there. You look at that, there's a big rock under that tree. And there's a plaque on that tree. I stopped and checked it out one time. 1850, that's where they had the first something, I forget, who knows what it was, but something happened. 1850, the first something. It's a big rock, they're about this high, and it's got a plaque on it. Prabhupada said there will be a plaque in every town that this is the day the Sankirtan party came. 2001, the Sankirtan devotee first came to distribute books in our town. That day will come, So, such a wonderful mission, empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The little jivas are desperately looking for us. You're all young men. Everybody likes fresh air, exercise. You want to work inside at the fender bender factory, stamping out who knows what, or you're mindlessly working as a clerk, or whatever it may be. I mean, it's all mindless. And you guys get to go out, fresh air, meet people, actually give them something they need. Gee, sign me up. But the problem is the mind. And therefore, the simple point we're making is we want to conquer the mind. Going out on Sankirtan, having to control the mind. And what does Vaishya's mantra? The day begins the night before. You go to bed. Plan your time, Get a nice japa, nice program, and then you just go out and have fun. And don't worry about the result. And when the mind starts, you're cold, you're hungry, you're tired, or he didn't like you, or he sold more books than me, or whatever is just happening. Doesn't matter. It's just the crazy mind in the back seat babbling. And are we going to be so stupid that we're going to be controlled by that idiot? I mean, okay, so there it is. At the kingdom, we are starving, surrounded by abundance. If we can control the mind, which following the morning program, chanting japa, going out on Sankirtan, is the medium. And when we do that, we'll end, but that relationship with Krishna becomes bound. When we go out on a limb for Krishna, and Krishna catches us, Prabhupada said darshan means two things. It works two directions. What is one thing darshan means? We see Krishna. What's the other side? Krishna sees us. Prabhupada said Krishna likes to see us. So Krishna's a person. Glenn, suppose I cook your favorite prasadam. We're going to have a festival. We're going to cook some nice prasad. But suppose, suppose you see someone made your bed, someone did your laundry, somebody cooked you some nice prasadam. How do you feel towards that person? Jeez. You open your heart, you trust them, you want to help them. How does Krishna feel? Because Krishna is a person, he's the original person. How does Krishna feel when we know, I'm getting out of my bed, I'm getting out of my comfort zone, I'm going out and I'm giving your message. I'm going to help save these conditioned souls. I'm going to bring them back to your lotus feet. I'm doing this for you, and I'm doing it because I love you, and I want to know you. How do you think Krishna reciprocates? He reveals himself. So it's a golden opportunity. Don't miss it. And you'll control the mind. And when the mind is controlled, everything becomes wonderful. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hey Govind.